You must determine where you are going in your life because you cannot get there unless you move in that direction. Hey, welcome to Flourish. I'm Diane Planidin, and you're in the right place if you're ready to create an inspired life. And we do so by working on our own personal development so we can be strong role models for those we love and mentor. Today is rule number 10 from Jordan Peterson's bestseller, 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Chaos. Yes. And the rule is be precise in your speech. You know, there's a lot of innuendo when people are speaking. There's a lot of, well, I'm guilty of this, idioms and slang used, and maybe it doesn't really get the right message across or the precise message across you're wanting to. Now, this chapter was really quite interesting because Jordan Peterson does go into great lengths to talk about how couples fall into this category far too often when the communication breaks down. And it's usually because one of them is afraid, or both, of confrontation. They don't want to have that difficult conversation, yet both know that there is a little dragon that exists. So how do you slay that dragon? How do you move forward? Well, today we're going to talk about 3 ways, 3 strategies to find your meaning in life by better communication and by having a little bit of gumption to articulate what you're saying in a clear way. Now, the problem with this is you have to also be prepared what's going to bubble to the surface. How big is that dragon going to get? So Peterson says, well, you have to think, what is wrong exactly? What do I want exactly? You must speak forthrightly and call forth the habitable world from chaos. You must use honest, precise speech to do that. If instead you shrink away and hide, what you are hiding from will transform itself into a giant dragon that lurks under your bed and in your forest and the dark recesses of your mind. It will devour you. Now, what's interesting about that is we are so imaginative as humans. We can make anything up. We can make up a story. Why is my husband late from work? And it can be a positive or a negative. He's stopping to buy me flowers. He's in a car crash. You know, it's just the sky is the limit how creative we can really be. So there's some thought provocation in this chapter, you know, that gives you the meaning of life. But it starts out like you really have to know. You really have to know yourself. So how well do you know yourself? Do you know where you're going? Do you feel needed, wanted, whatever you're doing? Do you say what you mean and mean what you say? That's one of the old, you know, golden rules, isn't it? So in order to do this, you have to inform yourself. You have to be ready to take a little bit of risk, ever how uncomfortable it may or may not be. And he does say, don't hide. Baby monsters under the carpet. They will flourish. Yeah, he uses flourish a lot in this book. I like that. It's kind of fun for me anyways. That's what this show is all about. Oh, yeah, so Peterson goes on to say that when you are dealing with such demons, that's why it's so important that everyone understand, everyone communicate together, and just breathe. Just breathe. Because what is it you want? If you need something and you're not getting it, and he has a cute story in his book about the children's fable by Jack Kent called There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. And I really like it, and it's really interesting how he reads so much meaning into this book, where the little boy sees a dragon on his bed and tells his mother, and his mother doesn't believe him. There's no such thing as dragons. And the story continues where, to the point where the, you know, dragon gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than the house and runs away with the house, and the absent father finally goes to find them. And finally, the mother's convinced about the dragon when her little boy says back to her, "There is a dragon, Mom." And then that monster, that dragon, starts to shrink again and get back down to cat size. And when Mom asks, to the point, why did that dragon get so big? Meaning, why did the problem get so big? Why did we let it get out of hand? Why did we lose our house that it went all the way down the road? Whatever that dragon is for you, why? You really have to dig into that. And the answer that he gives his mother is, maybe it wanted to be noticed. So if something's patting you over the head and you're not noticing it, it's going to grow and develop into a big, big problem. That's the dragon. That's my simplified version of the metaphor. So what are those 3 things you can do? What is it that you can do today, to find your meaning in order to articulate yourself in your speech? Well, number 1, say what you mean so that you can find out what you mean. What do I mean by that? Well, when you say what you mean, in order to think, you have to talk things out. You have to brainstorm, and even if it's just talking to yourself, if you can really say what you mean, you will be on the path to finding out what you mean. And it takes a long time. It really does. And it helps you on your journey, and it helps you towards your goals, and it helps you propel your life forward so you can do what is meaningful. Number 2, act out what you say so you can find out what happens. Let me say that again. Act out what you say so you can find out what happens. In a previous episode, I think it was rule number 8, I talked about the importance of visualization and how Peterson talks about this, and not on a mystic level. Not in a, if I just rub Aladdin's lamp, my dream will come true. No, you visualize, but then you take action. You have to act out what you say so you can find out what happens. And it's okay if you make mistakes along the way. You have to pivot. It's okay if there's some failures. That's how we learn. Act as if you're your own scientist and figure out do's and don'ts along the way. Each of us is unique like a snowflake, so it won't be the same formula for each person. And then number 3, pay attention. Note your errors, articulate them, strive to correct them. That is how you discover the meaning of your life. That will protect you from the tragedy of your life. How could it be otherwise, Peterson says. Yeah, I like that a lot. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, how you're mastering something, how you're improving daily, and comparing yourself only to who you were yesterday, not someone else today, because you don't know their journey, you don't know their story. And it's really important, like he says, to pivot, strive to correct them. He goes on to say, confront the chaos of being. Take aim against a sea of troubles. Specify your destination and chart your course. I love that nautical reference, right? Because it's sort of, if you've never been sailing, that's number 1, a beautiful thing to do. Number 2, you're constantly having to pivot. You're constantly having to move those sails according to the wind. And when you get that flow going, it is a symphony on the sea. It is so spectacular. And finally, Peterson says, Admit to what you want. Tell those around you who you are. Narrow and gaze attentively and move forward forthrightly. Be precise in your speech. It will give you confidence to flourish, and you will live a more inspired